Good morning, I'm Cody Henriksen. Today we're going to be taking a look at how we can go through the different user interface components for our data app using SwiftUI. As you can see over here on the left of my controller group, I've got the pieces that we'll be working with to make the actual view itself go together. And we're going to take a look at the three components that we use for the more customization components, and then we'll take a look at how we can use those together later on in how we work with the data view itself. But we're going to be looking at the bucket cell, the emoji logo, and then the bucket detail to see where that all puts together. So we're going to take a look at those different components. I'm going to go ahead and collapse out that section so we can see what we're working with, and we'll go from there. Right here, we're going to start off with our bucket cell. As you can see, of course, as we're using the import SwiftUI. On this one, we're using just a couple different little pieces. We want to make sure we understand how the stuff works and what we're going for as we go through the actual project. I have three variables that I'm using to actually refer to as we talk about the actual object itself. We have an icon, a content, and author. I've also written a custom init for this, so we initialize every member of the struct. Now, again, Swift can actually build a custom, a default init which initializes all of your things, simply by going through the name of the data members in order. But I wanted to practice writing an init with you, and so again, you can see we have icon as a string, content is also a string, and author is a string again. It relates directly to those data members right above it. And we use the self.icon equals icon, self.content content, self.author author, so we can explicitly say, hey, we're assigning the data members from the parameters we pass to it directly. Now, inside, of course, we have the body, the major variable that we have to actually worry about when we're talking about SwiftUI. And in the SwiftUI, we're using it, it's wrapped up in a navigation link, where it's going to do a destination as a bucket cell detail, passing it the information we need to make a more detailed version of this, which we'll be taking a look at in a minute. And then inside that, we actually have the components that make that together. So we have a H stack with a text of the icon, and a V stack then with the content and author on top of that. And as you can see right here, I have my cute little sick face emoji, the content right here that goes on top, and then the name of the author right there. And we can see how this works over here in the preview section. When we're making the preview itself, I say a bucket cell, and I create a bucket cell using that init that I wrote, where the icon is the sick face emoji, the content is lots of words go here, and the author is name. Again, showing that that's how we're going to be putting that together. So this is the one that we'll be using as the cell, which is what's going to go in all the rows that go inside our actual app. And so we'll have a whole bunch of these. Now, the fact that this is wrapped inside a navigation link, we don't see anything for that over here on just the preview pane for it. But however, when we go into the actual application and run this, and we put this inside the main view of the thing, when we click on it, oh, boom, I can open up to the detail view, so it works like an actual app would do. So that's what we're going on to start off with this. So that's just the quick little one we're going to start off with. And again, that's the bucket cell. Let's go take a look at the next one in the list. The next one we have is our emoji logo. Our emoji logo is what we're going to be used to build our bucket detail. And I want to have a little bit of fun with this. So what we're doing with this is we're making a little logo. We're making it a lot bigger than simply by default, so we can have some information about it. And as you can see right here, I've chosen the cat with the hard eyes emoji because it's so much fun. Now again, with this one, I didn't put a custom init on that. I'm usually using the Swift default init that's going to create for me automatically. I have a var emoji, which is of type string. And then I have a var body, of course, that we have to have because I'm using a SwiftUI component. And I take that same emoji right there and I just do a couple quick little modifications to the attributes. I want that font to be redonkulously huge. So I'm going to set the size to be 150 so I get this giant emoji face. Then I'm going to use a circle clip so I can clip a round shape around that and overlay a gray circle on top of that. So I have, it's like, oh, this is something that's going on top of it. So it's like, boom, I have that little gray circle right there. And I have that set for alignment with 10. So it's not too huge, but we can see what we're talking about. And then I'm doing a shadow on top of that as well, and just with a small radius so you have a little bit of blending on there. Now, of course, when you're customizing your own personal view for this, tweak this out all you like. You can even add some color to the back as well. But this is just something so I can actually create when I create my detail section of each of the different bucket list items, I have a cute icon to go along with it, and that icon is passed because of the emoji symbol that we pass when we create it right here. Again, we can see that right here in the preview structure for it. So we have the emoji logo using the default init of emoji logo, emoji colon, and then the hard eyes of cat. And so even though I didn't write that init up here inside the actual struct itself, because Swift is a strong enough language, it can build its own default init, provided you actually initialize all the data members by order. It's a great tool, and so it's a great one we want to keep using and working with. So that emoji logo is now going to become what we're going to put into our next piece, which we'll see right here. The bucket detail, as you can see, takes the emoji logo, puts it together, then we have a cute little picture that we're going to put behind it of a bucket because it's a bucket list project, I know. And then again, we have our author and our content right there. Now again, when we take a look at the code for this, you can see right here that we have an author, a content, and emoji for our data members. I'm using a Z stack then to do some front to back ordering. because the Z order puts it from back to front. I put a bucket image in there, and so this just happens to be a bucket image that we have right there, and I took some resizable, making sure it'll fit inside the screen. So that's where the resizable and aspect ratio attribute modifiers are. And then the contrast, I toned that down to 0.2 because I want to make sure it's a little bit grayed out. It's not the most important part of this actual application, but I want to make sure you can still see that it's a bucket and it's got some detail to it. Then in front of that, we're going to go ahead and put a VStack where we have the emoji logo we just looked at. So I can create an emoji that goes with this, passing the emoji that's passed in as one of the parameters for creating this actual thing right here as one of the data members, and then the text for the author and the text for the content right here. Again, this is just for the default view. When you want to make the actual application, you would provide some style on this, so it's not just the boring font right here. We could add some nice custom styling for that and make it look a lot nicer. But this is just so we can create some application that will actually work and explain the basic structure of how our visual impactive app works. And again, if we look at the preview for this, you can see I'm using the default or the pre-built initializer. So I don't actually write it myself. I just let Swift handle it, where I pass it the author, the content, and the emoji. And again, because that's the order I define them in here in the declaration section of my struct, that's the order that the default init that's created by Swift automatically takes care of those values. So that way I can go ahead and I can create that custom view that it will work for that. Now, if I go back really fast back to my data view, finally go back to here, you can see right here in my data view, I'm using that navigation view to hold all those pieces, and then I'm using inside that a bucket cell, and that's what's going to be filling that information in. So that way I'll put all these in, and so when I click on it, I can actually go through and click to the different components. So again, that's what we're going for to make this happen, and so we'll be taking a look at how we can make this happen and go over the code to explicitly make that work in just another video. But here's how we can do and go over the user interface components we use to make the data app. And again, those data app values are the bucket cell, the row that each of those different components go into, with an emoji, the text, and the name right there. And the next one, of course, is our emoji logo, the one we just built so it can keep that emoji stabilized throughout all of our instances that we're working with. And then finally, we have our bucket detail, which takes that emoji logo, a bucket image we want to put on top of that as well to make it so more like a detail screen just for this actual one, and the content and information that went on the original baseline as well. And then we put that all together, of course, in our data view, which is the actual root of the actual app, and we can use that to go back and forth because it's all wrapped up in a navigation structure. So that's how we're going to make the user interface work with this. Take a look at some of the other videos so you can see how we can do the other parts like the logic and the code that go along with loading the data file and putting that information in. Thanks again. Have a good day.